Hey guys, this is Stephen with The Forge with the 2 year reading plan. We're on year one, day 16. There was a lot that we covered today. If you're wondering why I'm a little late, today was Martin Luther King Day. I had the day off from work, so I decided to hang out with my wife and daughters. You might hear them in the background. We're doing some chores around the house, we're having fun. But I still read the Word of God. Today in Genesis 23, Matthew 7, we covered several things. It was a really good reading. Genesis 23, Sarah dies. This is a time when Abraham is trying to arrange a place to bury his family, right? A place for him to put his people when they pass on, because everyone passes on, even in biblical accounts. But I really wanted to focus on Matthew chapter 7 when Jesus is still teaching on the Mount. So we see that the Sermon on the Mount is really good in general, right? Because Jesus is dropping a lot of truth bombs, a lot of nuggets. He's teaching the people what he desires, what God desires. He's teaching them the law that they thought they knew. He's teaching them more perfect. But what I find interesting is in Matthew chapter 7, verse, let's start in verse 13. We'll see that the famous narrow is the way passage, but then we'll also see the famous fruit passage. And when they're combined and kept in context, it actually makes a little more sense of why Jesus would teach this. So in Matthew 7, verse 13, it says, "Enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction. And there are many who go in by it, because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life. And there are few who find it. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into a fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them." It's interesting that Jesus teaches both these on the Sermon on the Mount. He wasn't saying it, I'm moving on to verse 13, and then we'll carry on to verse 15. No, Jesus taught everything in context because he was just teaching. 13 to 14 is narrow is the way to salvation, is wide is the gate to destruction. And I used to always kind of think that that was just people in the world, living in the world, being the world, and people that are following God, living like God, being like God. Uh, but I'm almost wondering if it's a little different. I'm almost wondering if perhaps it leads to what we're looking at in verse 15. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Wide is the gate to destruction, and narrow is the way to salvation, is what Jesus is teaching us. So, what I find interesting is that when Jesus is teaching that, he says, after, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. When you think of a sheep and a wolf, they're two different species. But if a wolf comes to a bunch of sheep dressed and looking like a sheep, he's going to be able to fool them, be able to trick them, he's able to eat them, destroy them. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. But every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into a fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. Jesus is teaching us there's going to be a lot of false teachers that come like sheep, and you're going to know them by their fruit. But that's applicable to us because this is right after he's talking about narrow is the way to salvation and wide is the gate to destruction. The question is always, or at least in my life, the question has always been, how do I know if I'm on the narrow path or the wide path? Well, Jesus says we'll know that by our fruits. He's specifically talking about teachers, but this can be applied in our lives. Orange tree is not going to give you apples, and an apple tree is not going to give you oranges. Just as much as a grapefruit is not going to be as tasty as an apple, and just as much as an apple, for the most part, will not be as sour as a grapefruit. It's impossible. And so when Jesus is teaching us to be aware of these two paths and be aware of these false teachers who are like ravenous wolves dressed in sheep's clothing, all I can think about are people who are teaching a false gospel, but people trust them because they look like a sheep. But instead, they are false teachers waiting to destroy everyone who they meet. And we will know them by their fruits. And indirectly, if we're following the wrong shepherd, we will know ourselves and we will know each other by our fruits as well. And then he says that every tree that does not bear fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by the fruits you will know them. Verse 21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you, depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. And once again, this is right after narrow and wide gate discussion. This is right after knowing a tree by its fruit. And then he says, not everyone who says, me, Lord, Lord, is going to be saved. They're even going to have done really good things, even prophesied and done wondrous things in his name. And he will say, I never knew you, depart from me. So the question is, what fruit do you have and what fruit do I have? Are there warning signs? Are there signs showing us that we're not living in the light of God? And then how do we fix that? Because life is serious. It's short, but very serious. This place where we're at right now determines if we're a true follower and disciple of Jesus. And if we are a true follower and disciple of Jesus, we can guarantee that we're going to make it into his kingdom forever. We're in his kingdom forever right now. But if we're not in his kingdom today, we will not be in his kingdom forever later. And so if you're wondering which path you're on, look at the fruit in your life, write it down on a piece of paper, see where you're at. I'm going to do that. I am doing that. I'm constantly readjusting because I have a lot of problems. Maybe one day I'll be able to talk to you guys about it on this podcast. But I have a lot of struggles, not problems, but struggles. And if I'm not careful, I'll give into those struggles because of all the stuff I've been through in my life. I let a little boy inside of me pull the strings if I'm not aware of where I'm at today and if I'm not aware of where I've been yesterday. So my challenge to you as you close out your day, think about it. Which path are you on? What fruit are you producing? And on those last days, is Jesus going to say, depart from me, I never knew you, even though you did all these cool things? I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you are able to grow closer to God. And you have any questions, comments, concerns, or even suggestions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm still learning how to do this YouTube podcasting. I'm really happy I'm doing this 2-year journey with you. I'm going to try to get this on Spotify so you can hear it on multiple areas. Gosh, you can hear it multiple ways throughout your day. I'm going to try to sound more organic and more authentic as I get comfortable looking at myself in the screen, hoping that you'll get something from what God is showing me. Well, hope you have a great day. Talk to you later.